Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here, and welcome to another review. And now we're taking a look at Automania for the 48K ZX Spectrum. Released by Mikro-Gen in 1984, it's first of 5 games featuring Wally Week. Wally Week himself, Wacky Tire Pirelli, Wacky Tire Michelin engine moped, lighting Eddie's son, clothing Mahatma coat, footwear Welly Limited, catering Kentucky McDonald, Cucumber, Tom Arter, Wally's Tools, Alan Key, Plants, Teresa Green, Weapons Department, Tom O'Hawk, Excalibur, Medical Staff, Anthrax, Eucalyptus, Drinks, Effluence, Wino, Teetotal, Chief Grip, Hands and Feet, oh dear, Dentist, Anaesthetic, Phil Macavity, Decorating, Polyfiller, Artex, Colour by Attributes. As you can see, it was brought out by Mikro-Gen in 1984. As I said, it's the first of 5 games that featured Wally Week and or his family. As far as I know, this game only features Wally Week, but I think the other 4 that feature the other members of his family. The other 4 games are in the Wally Week series, Pyjama Armor, which Mikro-Gen also brought out in 1984. Everyone's Wally, 1985. Herbert's Dummy Run, also 1985, and 3 Weeks in Paradise in 1986. And then that was the last the gaming world ever heard of Wally Week. Maybe he retired, I don't know. But anyway, back to Automania, which also has the alternate title Manic Mechanic. It came out for the Spectrum and the Commodore 64. As far as I know, there was no Amstrad CPC version. And when it was first released, the original price was £6.95, which would have been quite a bit for an 8-bit computer game in those days. It's probably about £24–25 in today's money. At a bit of a guess. So without further ado, let's just get this game going. Now, the music that you're hearing in the background just then was the Cuckoo song, which was made famous by the comedy duo Laurel and Hardy from the very early parts of the 20th century. And although it's something of a novelty to have in-game music for a 48K Spectrum game, I think I'm going to turn it off. The two main reasons for that is it can be a bit of an acquired taste. I mean, if you're not bothered by the constant looping of of part of In the Hall of the Mountain King in Manic Miner, for instance, then you'll probably won't mind hearing the Cuckoo song playing on repeat in the background. But for the purpose of this review, so I'm not having to talk over it, I think I'm going to turn it off. And because the game runs a smidgen faster if you turn it off, so I'm just going to define my keys. Q, Z, I, P, M for jump. I mean, the defaults for QAOP is just I've got quite big hand span, so I prefer my up, down, left, right to be a bit more spread out, hence the QZIP that some of the games have adopted, and I adopted. So press enter to start. So here's Wally Week, and what you've got to do is in the room next door to this, there's a partially assembled car, and these pieces that are floating in midair are the pieces of the car that have yet to be placed in position. So you're getting each part one by one, avoiding all obstacles. You literally can't touch anything other than the floor and the ladders. Touch anything else, you're dead. Like that. And if you were carrying a car part when you die, then you have to go and then it will go back. The car part you were carrying will go back to its original position, which would mean you'd have to get it again. Wally Week's very well animated for a game from 1984. I mean, there are points where he'll turn to face camera for, especially if he's done something that he thinks is impressive, like jumping over an enemy. So like that, he just turned towards the camera. It's neat little touches like that particularly for a game dating back as far as this, elevate it to a slightly higher plane. So that's that piece in place, and as you see in the top left corner, there's a time limit but that time limit resets every time you successfully place a car piece. So it's not like you've got a one time limit to get all those pieces in place, because that really would be impossible. I mean, this is only one garage. When you complete a car, you go on to the next garage, and then you have to, and each garage gets progressively more difficult with moving platforms like that, and the positioning of ladders and the like, and enemies. Good, I managed to avoid that. What looks like a computer on a conveyor belt. I don't think it was a computer. I don't think computers were particularly. I have no idea what that's actually supposed to be, but. So you can't touch these BP cans, and you can't, because if you try walking past them, you're going to die. So you have to jump over them. And even the kettles are deadly for some reason. So if Wally Week was after a cuppa, then tough. Wait for them to get out of the way. Can't touch these. It can be a bit of a faff. Ooh, bloody hell, that was close. It can be a bit of a faff trying to position the car parts that are uppermost on the vehicle, like the one I just placed. I mean, I was lucky that I was in just the right place when I jumped, but if you're not, if you're just a little off, then Wally's not going to place the car part, and that can be a real problem if you're running out low on time. A little bit of attribute clash as you get close to those objects. I mean, at least it's not so bad that if Wally touches it with just a pixel of his paunch that he's going to die. It's not that bad, thankfully. It's a little, as you've seen, it's a bit more forgiving than that. Go on, propeller, get out of the way. No. I had to go out and back in again to reset the computer-like thing and the wheels. It doesn't reset the propellers, but I knew there was no way I was going to be able to jump over what I was being asked to jump over, so I just had no choice but to go out and back in again. Graphics are nice and colourful, and Wally's well animated and he's full of character. It's one thing to point out that unlike a lot of platform games, Wally cannot jump straight up. Even if you just press jump by itself, he'll jump forward in the direction he's facing. So that is something to bear in mind. I don't quite know why they took that approach with these games, but that approach they took, and we stuck with it. Ah, good, I was lucky with that one again. Yeah, you also die if that timer in the top left corner runs out. So you can't really dilly-dally. I mean, I could have gone back down and down the ladder on the left, but the positioning of that lower oil can, the BP oil can, it's a bit awkward, and it can be hard to time it so you don't accidentally walk off the platform when you're trying to get the jump timed right. It can be done, it's just more difficult compared to going the other way. The only downside is obviously that takes longer, and you do have a time limit, which is very close to running out at the moment. Go on, propeller, get out of the way. Thank you. Just got to place this last piece of this car. And that car's complete. Well done, Wally, promoted to next car. And that car looks like a Citroen 2CV. I understand that there are actually 10 cars in the game. Got dread to think how difficult the garage would be. As you can see, this is a different garage with a completely different level layout, and obviously it's going to be more difficult than the one that we've just finished. Yeah. Oh, goodness, now I've got 3 layers, or it looks like 3 layers of carbon pieces to fill in now. So jumping in the right place is even more important for some of those middle and upper sections. I mean, as I said, if I wanted to, I could have left the music playing, but I decided to turn it off to save everyone's ears and to save me from having to talk over music when it could be avoided. But it would have just been the same cuckoo song that you heard at the beginning. And you may also have noticed that I gained another life the moment I finished that previous car. And the reason I went out of that room back in again was because of the way those things falling from the ceiling were timed compared to the wheels and that computer-like thing that goes for, that moves along occasionally. God. Ugh. Because if it's positioned in such a way that there's just no way you can jump without dying, bearing in mind what I said earlier about not being able to jump straight upwards. Oh God, so pop. Oh God, I'm gonna die. Come on, get out of the way. I died because my time ran out. See what I mean? It's quite hard to tell exactly where you need to stand in order to jump to position a car piece. I mean, obviously, if things are on the floor, no problem whatsoever. You can literally just walk those into position. I mean, personally, I would have preferred if you could simply walk to the middle of the car, regardless of where the piece actually needed to go, because this is really fiddly. See, I managed to get it that time. And it can also be occasionally be a little bit tricky as to what part of the car you're actually trying to place. So if you thought something was meant for the back of the car and it was actually meant for another part of the car, then you could end up wasting precious time trying to position it in the wrong place. Which is actually another problem with it. And that, coupled with the somewhat plodding pace of the whole shebang, means that when you've picked up a piece, it's very easy to forget which part you've actually picked up. I mean, in the case of the wheels, it's not so bad because they're such a distinctive shape. But when you've got other pieces of the car, it can be a little bit unclear, especially when Wally's carrying it and you can't clearly see what he's carrying. I managed to just squeeze in. That's that piece placed. Oh, damn it. That particular one is tricky. Your timing has to be really good in order to clear that without the floor disappearing from underneath your feet. So you might want to take the long route, which is easier, but obviously takes longer. And you've got that telephone to worry about as well. Not to mention, of course, the dreaded time limit. Oh. Oh, God. I thought that bolt thing was going to be a problem, but I was actually all right in the end. Oh, for goodness sake, get out of the way. Yeah, so as I said, the plodding pace might be a little bit of a turn off. I'll go this way again. Let's get the other wheel. Oh God. Oh, that was okay. Again, a little bit of attribute problems when Wally gets close to other objects that are a different colour to him. But then that's only to be expected of the Spectrum. It's just a truism that specky users and programmers just had to accept. And it's not like it's particularly ugly at the best of times. I've seen far worse attribute clash in, say, Kung Fu Master. God, the clash in that was horrendous. And that was my very and that Spectrum version of Kung Fu Master was actually my very first YouTube game review, and that was back in August of 2020. Right, now to get this last piece, jump back over. Remember, as I said, you can't jump straight up, so you have to make doubly sure you're facing the opposite direction before you jump, otherwise you're in real trouble. Still, I do like the way he turns towards the camera every time he does something which he thinks is really impressive. It's little touches like that that didn't have to be put in, but were put in anyway, which elevate the status of the game a little. And that's another car completed. On to the next one, and I've got a life back again. So this time we got an area in which the floor completely disappears, so I must latch onto this ladder here. I can't just stay put, or otherwise I'll just fall to my death. Yeah. Another problem is that, especially with the plodding pace, it can get a little bit boring. but then it is an early game, so. And again, I was struggling to find the right place to put that thing because I have to stand and jump in the right place in order for it to happen. Otherwise, it just won't. No, I jumped. Well, I thought I did. I guess I moved slightly faster than that platform was moving outwards. No, darn it. Oh well, that's a good enough time to end the review. You've score code. Not sure what that score code is. I've not seen anywhere where you. I mean, it looks like a code where you could potentially continue from where you left off. That's what it looks like, but I've not seen anywhere where you can actually key that in. So that was Automania for the ZX Spectrum. Fairly straightforward platform affair. I don't know whether Manic Miner was an influence on it. I mean, like that game, it has the ability to have in-game music, which was comparatively rare on a 48K Spectrum due to that particular computer not having a proper sound chip. It wasn't until the 128K Spectrum that any kind of Spectrum had a dedicated sound chip. Graphics, nice and full of character. Wally Week himself is really well animated, and I like the nice little touches that he turns towards the camera sometimes when he does something which he thinks is quite impressive, like successfully jumping over an enemy, or even just climbing up a ladder sometimes for some reason. That was a nice little touch. It's really good that they put that level of detail in. The other animated sprites are well animated as well. I can't really complain about them. Nice use of colour. Bit of clash whenever differing coloured items get in close proximity to one another. But that's only to be expected, as I said earlier. Sound. Well, as I said, there's the Cuckoo song, which I could have kept playing even during gameplay if I'd so wished, but I decided to turn it off. You might want to have it left on to add a bit more atmosphere, but if you'd rather not listen to that particular tune on loop ad infinitum while you play, then the option to turn it off is there. Other than that, there's the sound effects when you pick up and place items, and of course when Wally Week loses a life. Gameplay. Well, I don't think I should be overly cruel to it because it is a game from 1984, so expecting it to be as feature endowed as, say, a game from 1988 or 1989, or even the early 1990s during the twilight years of the Spectrum, then that's a bit unfair. But even allowing for that, the slightly plodding pace and the fact that it can get a bit dull means you probably won't be playing it for hours on end. But as a bit of an alternative to something like Manic Miner, it's certainly worth a look. I mean, you actually have ladders in this, which Wally can climb up and down. There weren't really any ladders in Manic Miner. There might have been things that emulated ladders, but you couldn't just directly go up and down them the way you can in this. So I think I'm going to give Automania / Manic Mechanic, 6 out of 10. For me, particularly for a game of this time, it's only really the slightly plodding pace and the fact that you can get repetitive fairly quickly. That that perhaps gives something like Manic Miner a bit of an edge. But as I said, it's still worth a look. You might get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but I don't think I could be playing it for hours and hours and hours. And I'm pretty sure that quite a few other people would probably share that point of view as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you on another video soon. Texie88 out.